Hi, my name is John, and with the 2022 New South Wales Selective Exam now over and done with at the end of March early this year, it is a great opportunity and time for students who will be doing this exam in the future to understand the biggest changes that have occurred. The exam this year was quite different to the exam that was done last year by students, as well as the sample paper that's provided by the New South Wales Department of Education website, which is why it is very important to be learning with teachers and to be practicing material that is up to date with these new changes so that students can adapt and prepare accordingly. But let's get into it. We know that the New South Wales 2022 Selective Exam has 4 key sections, the first being reading comprehension, writing, mathematical reasoning, and thinking skills. Students who want to get into a selective school because it allows them to get an edge when heading into the HSC. With such a large proportion of the ATAR coming from your internal school mark and ranking in each subject, many students are looking to get into a better selective school or even a selective school in general to achieve that competitive advantage. After speaking to our higher performing students who did this exam recently in March 2022, I have noticed a few different changes in this new exam compared to the ones before. In today's video, I'll be going through the main differences for students to keep in mind for the future, and this will also be useful for parents who are looking to prepare their children for the exam next year and the years beyond. For thinking skills, our students identified fewer argumentative or logical reasoning questions compared to before. There were still these questions in the exam, but they were more heavily reliant on problem-solving questions instead. In particular, these problem-solving questions were more text-heavy compared to last year's exam or the sample paper. The questions themselves were not necessarily more difficult in terms of complexity, however, they were longer in terms of length, and as a result, it resulted in a high emphasis and importance towards time management because it just took a lot of time to answer per question. I recommend students who are preparing for this exam, for the thinking skills portion, to take this into consideration and work on a good number of questions of differing complexity as well as length, so some that are a bit shorter, as well as include some that are even longer than they will typically practice for, as it may help them in terms of the test in the future. Do not disregard the argumentative questions either, because they were still assessed and they could easily make that a stronger priority in the future years as well. In terms of reading, there was a new section that was a shift from the closed passage. Previously, with the closed passage, it involved inserting missing sentences in a passage that was taken out, and they also included an additional sentence that should not be used. Now it is a matching heading section where you have to match a heading to one of the paragraphs that are provided. There is still another heading that should not be used as well. Comparatively, it is considered easier than the closed passage, but I would think that it is in the best interest of both OC and selective students to prepare for both accordingly, as we know that last year they did a closed passage, but this year they didn't do that and instead did a matching heading section. This is a huge shift from the previous exam or what we imagined, as they didn't even have a closed passage section at all this time. With the right approach and preparation and guidance though, I believe that students can take advantage of this potential new change and capitalize on this section for extra marks, as the closed passage was arguably the most difficult section of the reading exam in the past. The writing exam was also the final change that I wanted to talk to you guys about. It is the first time they've ever done a diary entry in terms of text type. This is quite significant and important, as it means that there are more minor and obscure text types that can be assessed in the New South Wales Selective Exam, which shows that it is an area that is extremely tricky for students who are looking to prepare for it. In the sample paper, they had an advice sheet, and last year there was a newspaper report, and this year being the diary entry. If you consider the amount of time between the opportunity class exam or the OC test to the selective exam, you only have a bit more than a year, which means that there's only a very short amount of time to learn each of the different text types, familiarize with it, and practice accordingly. If you have a bit more than a year and there's more than 12 different text types that can be assessed, that means you have less than a month to prepare for each of these text types and remember all the previous text types that were taught as well, which is one of the challenges that we're kind of facing when we're teaching some of our students in terms of writing. But I'm very certain that other institutions and organizations and even parents themselves are finding it quite difficult when they're helping their child as well. I have made a previous video analyzing the new question type, so make sure to check that out if you haven't already. Be sure to watch it carefully, as they had some tricks with the question that can catch many students off guard, such as the date they provide and the way that you should integrate it. If you do not integrate it in the proper way, you will most definitely lose some marks. In conclusion, these are just 3 of the main changes and shifts that I recognized in the 2022 New South Wales Selective Exam after speaking to our high-performing students. The differing question types and thinking skills, the shift from closed passage to matching headings in the reading exam, and a more obscure writing text type, making it more difficult for students to prepare for, are just some of the things that you should really consider. There are more shifts and changes that did occur, but the video will just be way too long. If you like this video and you like these types of videos, definitely click like on it. It actually means a lot in terms of the algorithm and making sure other people will find out about this. If you haven't subscribed already, definitely subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.